Emma Collins had never considered herself an extraordinary person. She was a 32-year-old librarian in the small town of Eldersville, a place where everyone knew everyone else's business and life moved at a steady, unhurried pace. The town was nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills, a picturesque setting that seemed to belong in a painting more than reality. Emma's routine was simple. Every morning, she woke up at 6:30 a.m., brewed a pot of coffee, and spent 30 minutes reading a book before heading to work. Her small, cozy house was filled with books of every genre, but she had a particular fondness for historical fiction. The library, an old brick building that had stood in Eldersville for over a century, was her sanctuary. She loved the smell of old books, the quiet rustle of pages, and the way the sunlight streamed through the large, dusty windows. One crisp autumn morning, as Emma was sorting through a box of donated books, she came across a leather-bound journal. Its cover was worn, and the pages were yellowed with age. Intrigued, she opened it and found that it was a diary written by a woman named Clara Thompson in the late 1800s. Clara's handwriting was elegant and neat, and as Emma read the first few entries, she felt a strange connection to this woman from the past. Clara Thompson's diary was a window into a different time, but the emotions and experiences she wrote about were strikingly familiar. She wrote about her dreams and fears, her struggles and triumphs, and the people she loved. Emma found herself engrossed in Clara's story, reading late into the night, unable to put the diary down. As the days passed, Emma began to notice parallels between her life and Clara's. Both women were in their early 30s, both lived in small, close-knit communities, and both had a deep love for books. Clara had been a teacher in Eldersville, a position that came with its own challenges and rewards. She wrote about her students, her passion for education, and her longing for something more. One entry in particular caught Emma's attention. Clara wrote about a mysterious stranger who had arrived in Eldersville one winter's day. He was a tall, dark-haired man with piercing blue eyes and an air of mystery about him. Clara was immediately drawn to him, and they soon became close. However, the man was secretive about his past, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. Emma couldn't help but feel a twinge of excitement as she read about Clara's budding romance with this enigmatic stranger. Her own life had been devoid of romance for quite some time, and she found herself daydreaming about meeting someone like Clara's mystery man. One evening, as Emma was closing up the library, a man walked in. He was tall, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, just like the man Clara had described in her diary. Emma's heart skipped a beat as he approached the front desk. "Hi, I'm looking for some information about the history of this town," he said, his voice smooth and deep. Emma managed to gather her composure and smiled. "Of course, I can help with that. Is there anything specific you're interested in?" The man introduced himself as Michael Turner, a historian researching small towns in the region. Emma showed him to the section of the library dedicated to local history, and they spent the next hour discussing Eldersville's past. She couldn't shake the feeling that their meeting was more than just a coincidence. As the weeks went by, Michael became a regular visitor to the library. He and Emma grew closer, bonding over their shared love of history and literature. Emma found herself opening up to him in a way she hadn't with anyone else. She told him about Clara's diary, and they began to read it together, piecing together Clara's life and the mystery of the stranger she had written about. One snowy evening, Emma and Michael sat by the fireplace in Emma's living room, the diary open on the coffee table between them. They had reached the final entries, and the tension in Clara's story was palpable. Clara had discovered that the stranger, whose name was William, was a fugitive. He had been falsely accused of a crime and had come to Eldersville to start a new life. Clara's final entry was a heartfelt letter to William, expressing her love for him and her hope that they could build a future together. The diary ended abruptly, leaving Emma and Michael with more questions than answers. "I wonder what happened to them," Emma said softly, her eyes fixed on the flickering flames. Michael reached for her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "Maybe we can find out. There must be records or other documents that could tell us more." Together, they began to dig deeper into Eldersville's history, searching for any trace of Clara and William. Their quest took them to the town's archives, where they uncovered old letters, photographs, and newspaper articles. They discovered that Clara and William had indeed built a life together. They had married and had 2 children, living out their days in the very town Emma called home. Emma felt a sense of closure as she learned about Clara and William's happy ending. She realized that their story had mirrored her own in many ways. Through their journey into the past, she had found not only a kindred spirit in Clara, but also a new beginning with Michael. With Clara's story laid to rest, Emma and Michael turned their attention to the present. Their bond grew stronger, and they began to envision a future together. Emma found herself excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. The library, once her solitary sanctuary, had become a place of connection and discovery. On a warm spring day, Michael proposed to Emma in the library, surrounded by the books that had brought them together. They decided to incorporate Clara and William's story into their wedding, honoring the past as they looked forward to the future. As Emma walked down the aisle, she felt the weight of history and the promise of tomorrow. She knew that life, like a well-woven tapestry, was made up of many threads, each one adding to the richness and beauty of the whole. And she was ready to weave her own story, with Michael by her side, into the fabric of Eldersville's legacy.